All right. Hey guys, thanks for being here. This is amazing. So I'm Becky Krull. I'm a small animal veterinarian in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and we own two practices here. Yep, go pack. All right. I love it. Rebecca just graciously asked me to come on here and start talking about a little bit about the destigmatization. I don't know if I can say the word anymore. Of mental health and the role it plays in our worlds and vet medicine and why we're talking about it, why we're not talking about it, and a little bit about my background is I have been a veterinarian for 15 years, and it was about 2016 when I started to hit that slump in my life when I didn't really want to be a veterinarian anymore, when I had major burnout and compassion fatigue, and basically kind of had a come to Jesus moment where it was going to be I either leave the practice of medicine and go do something else with my life, or I get my you-know-what together and find my way back to veterinary medicine. And I chose to find my way back, but it took a lot of work, the help of a life coach and her husband, who happens to be a psychotherapist. So not formal, I'll tell you, just like in full transparency, I had huge blocks about therapy. People I know didn't do well in therapy. I didn't think it worked. I was maybe even ashamed to even say that I needed it. But as I started to go through the process, that's indeed what I was in and continue to do. Mental health therapy on a regular basis so that I can be the best me, so that I can be the best me for my clients, my family. And I get to just be me. I get to be authentic me. And I talk about it freely. I joke, it's not the greatest thing to go out in front of public and be like, yeah, I have a mental health problem. But really the things I share with everybody is like, oh yeah, that all sounds, I have that too. And so there's nothing to be ashamed of. And the more I can talk about it in vet med, the happier I am, because we all, I think, share a common theme, common problems, common whatever. And we all need the same help and work so we can live amazing lives.
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you, Doctor. When we were pulling all of this together, maybe even 3 or 4 weekends ago, when we had an interview, I said, Becky, let's talk about this. And she said, yeah, let's do. I'm like, cool. So that's how this all came about. Yeah. And that's how a lot of this program came about, and then creating a website and whatnot. I was watching Vet Tech Cafe, and a dear friend of mine was being hosted on that as well. And she was talking about her experiences and how she has been able to express it. And I was just so proud of her. And at the end, they actually said, there's this hashtag, beat the stigma. And I was like, at that point in time, I thought, that's exactly what we're going to do as well. I've been in this well-being space or wellness and growing into this for a number of years. When I first started working with VSPN, doing some of their Practice Management 101, and I started reading the research that showed over in the UK, they were showing how veterinarians were having a high level of suicide. And so I started mentioning that even 15 years ago in my classes. And then the AVMA started having a wellness summit, and I was invited to do that. And I was on some of the committees for wellness and all of that. And I'm the kind of person, man, let's name it. Yeah, let's give it a name. And let's not beat it to death. Let's move on it, and let's take some action on it. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest, and so is Dr. Krull here. You don't see therapists or counselors or anything like that in our credentials. We are veterinary professionals that really want to help other veterinary professionals and veterinary team members be able to have these conversations and be able to find the solutions within your practice to help everybody when they need it. So Becky and I have only physically met once, and I think it was at a table, and it was like, I recognize you, you recognize me. We gave each other a hug. We were at the AVMA summit in Chicago in the middle of the winter. Mm-hmm. They always do that.
It's a great place to be.
But
yeah.
tell us a little bit about that experience. Maybe about, so I was thinking about the destigmatization. We're talking about that, but what did you get out of that?
Well, I guess, you know, for one, I didn't feel alone, because sometimes very much, you know, I'm in a bubble here in my practice. There's, you know, there's 2 other veterinarians in my staff, but I feel like can be in a bubble and don't talk to everybody about it. So it was great to see that there were other like-minded people out there talking about it. It was also great to see that there was veterinarians, there was medical doctors, there was psychotherapists, there were social workers. There was just a lot of aspects that play into it. And I loved that a brighter and brighter light is being shown on this. So the AVMA is clearly taking it seriously. BI, Dr. Lobach is here. BI has sponsored me through this. They're taking it seriously. So the industry is seeing it, hearing it, and now actively doing something about it. But what I love about this, like you said, I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist, none of those things. But what I do know is I know my story. And the more I can share my story, I can help others share theirs. And every time I share my story, it heals me more and more. I'm pumped about sharing it. And it helps other people come out and say, oh yeah, I feel that way. Or, oh yeah, I see that. And maybe I should do something about it. So
that is a big word, destigmatization.
You know what's interesting? I was going to share this with you guys, and I think I felt this. So I had a doctor's appointment yesterday, and as they're asking me all these questions, the final questions they asked me were, do you often feel sad or lonely? Do you have thoughts of, bad thoughts? Are you depressed? And I answered no to all of them, but then I asked the nurse, what happens if I say yes to these? And I put myself in the place of like, I'm comfortable talking about it, but think of all the people who are not comfortable talking about it and who are not even going to share that with their own physician. And I think even in our realm here, we don't talk about it with our staff members. I wasn't even talking to my husband about it. He did not realize the low I was in because I was just pushing through, trying to make things happen and stay afloat. Because there is depression that runs in his side of the family and my side of the family. So to even say the words was like scary, that something wasn't right. And it's a shame because I think a lot of us suffer in silence.
Most definitely. There's been times when I've done polls within my network, which isn't that small, it's not that big either, but I think it's a pretty good representation of our veterinary teams. So I see a lot of faces on here I don't recognize. Heidi, I don't know that I've ever met you. Hello. Alyssa, thanks for joining us. Yay. Who else? Heidi, so we have Heidi Holtz and we have Heidi Hulan down there. And Carol's here too. So if anybody remembers the romper room, this is how I feel about the romper room, and this is how I feel about Hollywood Squares as well. And I get sidetracked most often, and that's usually why I keep a slide deck, but I'll find out where I was going. Surveys. See, I knew I'd get there. And anybody can jump in at any time and help me when I do that. Just let you know. So the surveys, and I do anonymous surveys, and I'll get a couple hundred, maybe a few hundred back. So, but over 50% of the people, when I asked in the surveys about well-being and talking to your team and have you had therapy sessions before, over 50% of the people said yes. And therapy can look different and be provided in so many different ways. So Dr. Krull was talking about how she had a real block against just even the word therapy, and that seeing the doctor and going to have the psychiatrist or somebody, but even when we have the employee assistance programs, those programs are designed to help support our veterinary teams in all sorts of ways. So
they are, I'm gonna claim ignorance on this. And again, that was me hiding my head in the sand and just like plowing through. No clue. I had no clue that those things existed in 2016. So maybe shame on me for not looking, but maybe a little shame on the industry too, for, in our colleagues in AVMA and whatnot for not really pushing it, because in 2016 in my world, it was only just starting to come up to really be talked about. Now I feel like it's common, it's just common everywhere. But I think of our colleagues, you know, even my partner of 20 years, my business partner, when I have conversations with him, he's like, this isn't new. This has been in our field forever. It's just you
Mm-hmm.
guys are finally talking about it and
Yeah,
doing something about it. So
exactly, exactly. So I'm going to come back to this word destigmatization, and then I'm going to pop back, and then I'm going to talk about peer assistance programs.
okay.
So when I was at the Wellness Summit at CSU, maybe around 2016, I lose track. How many of you lose track of time? Oh. There was a veterinarian up there with also some other tremendous amount of degrees in that. And she started the keynote speaking about destigmatization, and she also is probably, I think, a psychoanalyst as well. And I only got maybe a fourth of her words, to be perfectly honest, but I recognized in all of that this is a big deal, and that there's a lot of reasons for our veterinary community to have the mental health challenges that we do. And I use challenges. I'm not really fond of the word issues. All right, so that's how I'm going to approach that.
Okay.
But that's where I heard that big word, destigmatization. And I came home that weekend, and she was talking about the good mother and all of these things. And I like to write. So I wrote a blog on it. And then that blog actually turned into an article for Veterinary Practice News. And we were talking about perfectionism. But bringing this back around to being at the Wellbeing Summit, because I think they changed the name this past year in Chicago, they were talking about destigmatization, but they weren't giving us really the materials to do anything with it. So, I'm one of the few veterinary technicians in the room, and I'm always about, give me tools, give me resources. We've been talking about this for a long time, but give me those resources. So that's another reason why we came to this.
Yeah, and I think that's one of my frustrations with all of this is you can go to those great conferences and we talk about definitions and research and graphs and all this, but I'm the same way. I want actions and accountability. And that's where I was in my life in 2016 when I finally figured out I wanted help. Was, we can call it whatever you want, but I want some real actions. And I think we're slowly getting there. I think that I do think that what the AVMA is doing a great job, and they have a well-being package. But again, as a veterinarian who was struggling in 2016, there was no way I was going to go to their website and go through their things and listen. So for me, that was a struggle. Like, I needed more of this. I needed somebody to talk to. I needed talk therapy. I needed some other tools besides just myself. So I think it's really helpful when we have other members and groups that we can talk to like this, especially like-minded. When we're in the same field, we totally get it. We get the same challenges that we're all facing.
So then we get to move to solutions, because that's where
Absolutely.
we are now.
Yeah.
So I want to, and Ted can pop in on this as well. And in a moment, I'm going to ask everybody to go into the chat. So kind of find your chat button and start playing around in that. If you want to tell me what is your favorite color, that would be awesome, just so that you get over there and you find your chat button. Tell me your favorite color. Here, I'll tell you my favorite color.
Rebecca, I'm not ignoring the chat. I'm just driving, so I don't want to try.
Well, I think that would be appropriate. So
Okay.
I'm glad you're, yes, blue, no green, purple, green, see, good, excellent. So in a minute, I'm going to ask about this one thing. All right. I've been very fortunate that I have worked with the Colorado Veterinary Medical Association and the Colorado Association of Certified Veterinary Technicians, and I was even a part of the Denver Area Veterinary Medical Society. That in itself was a large mouthful to digest when I was stepping into organized medicine. I am very much an advocate for organized medicine and all the wonderful things that it can do. I encourage all my peeps. So when I talk about team peeps. I'm talking about everybody, veterinarians, receptionists, assistants, everybody. So I'm always of the opinion that everybody on the veterinary team has a professional organization that can support them. And I am very geeky in that I like to go to state board meetings. Show of hands, who likes to go to state board meetings? I know, it's not how most people, oh yes, Heidi Holtz does. Sister kinship here, sweetheart. But what I learned during all of those wonderful board meetings, because they're hugely educational, they have people that really do care for the pets and the people and the product and the services we provide, that there was a peer assistance program, and that the Colorado Veterinary Medical Association and even the state of Colorado chose to provide some of the dues that veterinarians paid to put together towards a peer assistance. And there are some other states that do similar things. But when I was asking people, veterinarians and technicians and people about that, nobody knows what it is. They don't even realize that at the time they were putting into the funds. I think now the funds have accumulated, and so it kind of maybe is perpetual. And I saw Ted shaking his head, so I'm on the right path. But the point here is that very few veterinary professionals, let's even single out veterinarians, realize that there could be within their state a peer assistance program. So in the chat, please tell me, whether you're a veterinarian or a technician or anything like, whatever your role is within the veterinary community, are you aware in your state of a state entity for peer assistance? So I'm just curious. And I will warn you that sometimes I do call people out on stuff. Like if I'm like, whoa, that looks really good, I get really excited and I say, let's share more on that. So someone's in Wisconsin, not in Kansas, not in California. There's no one in the works, but Michigan, not aware. Not aware. Okay, training, coaching. Yes, so that's usually what I find. And to be perfectly honest, we could probably go on to the American Veterinary Medical Association, and they used to have a page that showed what states do provide. And you'd be surprised that a number of states do provide that kind of a support. So I'm going to switch gears. So what I'll do, and I promise this, that's why I take so many notes, is on our Facebook page and in one of our upcoming emails within the symposium, I will link to, aha, Ed's all over it, brownie points for Ed, the avma.org advocacy, local issues, awesome. So I will snag that, and we might even look at it in the near future. I might open this up and share my screen, okay? And see, advocacy. And so, you know, I think this is where we have a problem. How many people would ever look under advocacy or peer assistance or anything like that? I don't think we properly name this stuff, to be perfectly honest. There's nothing in those key words that tells me, I'm having a mental health breakdown here, people. Where do I go?
Yeah, we just, I mean, call it what it is, right? Just name it that. It'd be a lot easier to work with.
Yeah. So the reason why I can talk about all this stuff so freely, I can remember when I was like young, and Dr. Cohn knows my mother. She's a hoot. I love my mother. But I can remember her having a plaque on the wall, and I was probably 6 years old. It says, I'm going to have a nervous breakdown. I owe it to myself. I've worked for it, and nobody's going to deprive me of it. I mean, those are the kind of conversations we had at our house. I'm going to have a nervous breakdown. Okay. This is what it looks like. Okay. Right.
So I'm going to throw this out there. Does anybody, just playing devil's advocate, why do you think that is? Do you think it's the shame that still is surrounding the fact that we're not just going to call a spade, that it is mental health and veterinary medicine? Like, why do you think that the AVMA can't just come out and call it what it is?
Well, I don't even think it's, let's just point out the AVMA. I mean, even the
It was
states and all of that.
Yeah.
The advocacy, peer assistance.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of a, I think are afraid to be different. And to be honest, 25% of people, even on this call and within our veterinary community, 25% of people are in a state where they need help, statistically.
Yeah.
I don't want to type this because it would take too long, but I would suspect that Wrigley's still talking. I would suspect that there's some component of that, the imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
So we all, well, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of us tend to think that we're not as good as the other people on the screen. And so therefore, when we see ourselves or see a failing in ourselves, we tend to think that the other people aren't also experiencing it. And then therefore, we're going to keep our trap shut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely. Anybody else want to step up? So the question that Dr. Krull asked is, you know, why aren't we calling a spade a spade? Why aren't we just saying, hey, I got a mental health problem, or that I need to see a therapist, or that I'm going to have a nervous breakdown. I owe it to myself. I've worked for it and nobody's going to deprive me of it.
Yeah, and if we can't say it here or whatever, our organizations in the bigger scheme of things need to be able to say it, because that we start breaking down barriers and walls that way when they can just say it.
Well, and I think this is where that begins. I'm totally about grassroots for so many reasons, I was a political leader within the Gunnison County, you know, for many years. And so I know and understand that, yes, grassroots like this is equally important.
Yeah.
So, you know, we start talking about this on our Veterinary Teams Living Well general page. If you look through my stuff over the last 3 years, I've had destigmatization up there. The other day I put on what to expect during your first therapy class. You know, how do we just start talking more about this and just making it more of a general conversation? Okay. So I'm gonna flip gears on us a little bit. So we talked about the advocacy. I've got a link. I'll forward that to everybody. So you too, within your state, can see if there's something that your team needs to know about or your veterinarian needs to know about from the state board or from their professional organizations. So I'm going to ask just a general question about an employee assistance program. So within your work, regardless of where you work, some of you work in corporate places, some of you work in veterinary hospitals, some of you are very connected in different places, but tell me, do you or are you have access to an employee assistance program, an EAP? Harriet, yes. Michael, yes. Yes.
Yes, Melissa.
And Melissa too. Fabulous. Yes. So when I started learning about all this peer assistance and started attending all of these wellness programs, even when I was doing the VSPN is when I learned about employee assistance programs. And then I saw the VHMA do a survey. So the Veterinary Hospital hold on a second. Veterinary Hospital Managers Association did a survey, and it was probably about 6 years ago. So the numbers, their numbers are growing in that organization, but it's still not a really big pool. But less than 13% of those people in the VHMA had an EAP, less than 13%. Now, and I'm even going to say that's less than that within veterinary hospitals, just because that was probably a skewed sampling, right? But what I'm seeing here, and this is so exciting, is that a larger percentage of you on this call have access to an employee assistance program. And Becky, were you the one that just says, yes, I found it?
I fund it.
Oh, you fund it. You fund it. Okay, awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. But there's actually been, and thankfully I was able to participate with NAVTA and VHMA and Veterinary Practice News we created a series of articles, which I will forward to everybody, on EAPs. And this was one of the conversations that Becky and I had together. And it's like, ooh, let's talk about that. Because this could be some of those things that can be tangible, that we can bring forth to our veterinary teams, that can be that grassroots support that those veterinary teams need. And it's almost 4 o'clock. We started at 3:30, so we're halfway done. Perfect. All right. So Becky, tell us about your EAP, and then we're going to open it up to some questions about EAPs. Okay?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's the same program that I put myself through with a executive coach. I now have opened up to my entire staff. They have access to a coach as well as a psychotherapist whenever they need it. We do have a wellness team. We have a wellness coordinator. So that person is basically in charge of, we do just like fun challenges, but we're constantly talking about meditation and movement and how we eat and bringing healthy snacks in. But then we are doing, other things about mental health wellness. And then when we really, when a person really might need some extra help, we have that at in our toolbox to have a executive coach and a psychotherapist available to us. So they're on our team, basically. I contract with them to be with us 24/7.
Yes, Alyssa is giving you the, everybody, let's applaud Becky. Yes. Yes.
It's pretty cool. It's nice just to have that, recently we've had a couple situations, and it was just so great for me as the owner to say, I don't have to solve this. I have somebody on my team who knows how to handle this, and bring them in and help mentor and help that person in ways that I couldn't.
Yeah. Harriet was on here earlier, and I'm pretty sure that she said that she has one. So she's managing a larger practice. Is there anybody in our Hollywood Squares here that would like to share about their benefits and what kind of employee assistance programs they have access to?
Well, I can't say I've utilized it, but working with Boehringer Ingelheim and Mariel before that and Banfield before that, there's always been one. I could go to the website right now and find the phone call. So it's always been one of those things that's been available to me in the past. I have, like I said, I haven't used it, but I have pointed other people that I work with to it occasionally.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right.
And I haven't used ours that we have through Nationwide, but when COVID hit, Nationwide reminded all of us, 30,000 employees, that we did have access to that. And if we had any issues because of COVID, we could utilize that service.
Yeah. And that's what even our EAP series talks about. So when we put that together, we collated and reached out to people who are practice managers, technicians, team members that have used it. What was their experience? And what we found is that as a practice manager or someone who's funding that program, you need to constantly, and think about turnover too within practices, remind your team it's available for all sorts of things. It's available for what we learned, individual hospitals can create it. You can purchase different packages. They're not that expensive, but even from the basics, it can help to cover and help people manage money. It could help people going through a divorce. It can help people who have a child that maybe is ill, or how many of us now have elderly parents, right? I go see my mother, and every time she's telling me, Becky, I'm not going into a home. You're going to have to take care of me. I'm like, okay, Mom. We have all of these things in our life that causes us, not just as, within our work setting, which is stressful enough, but now we also have all of these things in our life that can increase that stress and put those burdens on us. And to be honest, we just don't have the coping skills all the time. And I'm going to talk about when I was going through my first divorce. So I was a much younger version of me, was going through my first divorce, and I didn't have the coping skills that I needed to make all of that happen. And so I reached out and had counseling. I went and saw my priest. I went and, you know, my mother was not always understanding of everything I was going through, but, you know, I'm still working. I'm going through all of this. My bandwidth was not as good as it was 6 months previously, right? But even as we go into our work days and as we go into our daily lives, what we can withstand today and what we can cope with today might not be the same as tomorrow. And that's another piece too that came out really clear with that peer assistance, because we would have people that told us like who was getting used, not the names of them, but why were they being seen and what services were being used. But we also have the folks that are having substance abuse problems. So that's another piece of this too. But I can talk pretty freely about this kind of stuff, guys, as you can see, but not everybody can. So thank you so much for sitting with us and continuing to have this conversation. I appreciate it. And I even see some people like leaning in when we're talking about some stuff and leaning back. So I can see there's interest in other ways. I see that there's quite a bit of chats going on. Yes, so Heidi's talking about using a coach and what does that cost? And again, even some coaches services are covered within an EAP, surprisingly enough. Coaching can vary. Oh my gosh, coaching services can vary. I'm in a coaching group right now, and some of those folks will say what they're charging and how they got different packages. And so I'm just gonna say that it's all over the board, all over the place, and all sorts of different programs that you can tap into. But what I will put together, Heidi, is maybe a couple links that help people understand what kind of coaching is available. Like, I'm a certified career coach. I can talk business and how to build a business and how to build your career and how to be a professional till the cows come home. Don't even get me started on that. We'll be here for hours. But there's life coaches. Becky, tell us some about maybe some of the services. I think you used a life coach, possibly.
I used a life coach, and I continue to use a life coach. And then kind of what's developed out of that is we started our own coaching group just of veterinarians and veterinary teams, just to have like-minded people in there. What I would also add to that is ask your employer. So if they don't already have something set up and you decide to find one, ask them if they'll help fund it. You know, I'll talk about this in one of my talks, but it behooves them to have you at your best. It increases your productivity, and sometimes numbers talk. And so for a very small financial input from them, or, you know, maybe they pay half or whatever, it's going to make their bottom line go up, which as an employer, I'm happy to do that. And that's why I do it for my own staff, because I know what happens to the productivity when we're healthy like this. Yeah, so I use a life coach, and I've been, this is my third year. And, you know, the way I think of life coaching is at some point we've all had a coach in our life, whether it's been parents, teachers. You know, I was an athlete, an actual coach, went to vet school, had mentors. And all of a sudden I got into the real world and kind of lost all that. Didn't have a great mentorship where I was, didn't have somebody standing side by side, or a group of confidants that I could go to. And life coaching just really resonated with me. Just the term, like, I needed a coach for my life to get back on track. And I still utilize them, because although most of the time I'm great, there are times when I need, you know, an oil change. And so that's what they're there for.
Yeah. When I was starting to first really truly branch out with some of my businesses, there was a woman in Gunnison, her name was Gwen Pettit, and her and I met all the time on a business life coaching sessions. And then we created Catalyst, and originally it was a consulting group. And I'll have to tell you, Peter Weinstein created an article, and he said how veterinarians are really bad at using coaches, and how veterinarians in the veterinary community should be using a coach. And I've been coaching for years. I just never really saw myself as a coach. I've written books and I write articles and I present on careers and I do all of these things. And I think that Peter's article is like the tipping point. It was like, I can coach, and I think people would enjoy what I have to support them with, right? And for the symposium, the majority of the people that we have brought together are consultants and coaches that want to do this and help support the veterinary community in this way. That's what's so wonderful about this. And we're not the only few. There's 18 speakers in our symposium tomorrow, starting tomorrow, 18 people. And we all came together like within 3 days. Imagine if we put this out there and started collectively talking more about coaching and support and therapy and counselors and all of these people that could come out of the woodwork, because there's more and more of them all the time. Can you see how excited I get? Yesterday, I had a woman reach out to me, and she wants to be in our general Veterinary Teams Living Well Facebook page. And so I asked, what do you do? She says, I'm a life balance coach at an emergency veterinary practice. Oh my God, I was like, oh my God, we're getting there.
I love what you say. You know what finally sold me to? I was doing research before I got a life coach, because I'm like, why do I need a life coach and how do you justify it? The top Fortune 500s, mega CEOs of large companies all have executive coaches. Like, they don't get there on their own. They have somebody supporting them and helping them. And then I love what Rebecca said too. Coaches need coaches. So even, the coaches that I'm familiar with, they too have coaches, because we're always growing, always doing better, always learning, always supporting. So you never stop.
I'm in a coaching group right now, and they're the ones that they didn't push me, but they've been the ones supporting me the last 2 months in creating this program. I mean, it's so amazing. So amazing. All
Alyssa,
right.
in chat, I love this. I can't be my best without my best people around me. It's absolutely true. You have to have your tribe of people. And that's what my coaching's for me. I surround myself with amazing people so that I can go back out into the world. So yes, you need a tribe.
Yeah. All right, I'm coming back to my loose agenda because we've got 20 minutes. I like to always be very cognizant of people's time. If we go over, that's fine too, but we kind of blocked out an hour for all of this. We've talked about EAPs, mental health conversations during team meetings. Let's talk about that, right? Or not just even during team meetings. How can we make these conversations about having a coach and going to a therapist, and I don't need to know the dirt about what's going on. I just want to be able to support you in you seeking help. I think that was one of my biggest things. So many, I get to work with team members all over the United States in hospital training, and coaching is what I do. And I started seeing how much people just need to be able to say, I need help, because it's a very difficult thing for us to do. And just even as a team, I remember doing one thing about, they were talking about just lifting up dogs and being able to say, I need help. It was one of the papers that I did at the end of the day is like, I need help. It just needs to be something that flows more often and frequently through our mouths, even on the veterinary hospital. And then it probably morphed into a blog, and then it morphed into something else. And then I wrote an article on it. Oh, that's what it was too. Marcy, Dr. Kirk and I even talked about that during the well-being last time, just about the ability to be vulnerable. That's the whole thing about being vulnerable, right? And being able to say, I can cope with that yesterday. There's shit going on in my life that I don't have the coping skills today. And I'm going to find some help for this but the other part of the piece of the puzzle too is sometimes when someone's in that, it's very difficult for them to get out of it. They can't see the blinders because we put blinders on and we see these things. So what I've helped team members do is and this was a question that was in one of the surveys from our pre-survey. Be open to and help your team be able to say, I'm seeing this behavioral change. If there's something you want to talk to me about, I'm available to you. It's not talking about the person. It's not talking about the event. It's not talking about any of those things. It's talking about a behavioral change. I'm seeing that you're coming in later. What's going on? You know, this comes back to the emotional intelligence piece and being able to communicate and self-awareness. I mean, it's a complex thing, but wouldn't it be wonderful if our team members had the wherewithal and were able to say to another team member, I'm seeing some changes and I'm concerned. If you want to talk about it, I'm here for you. That's all. Wouldn't that be nice? Let's let that settle for a few minutes. I'm seeing this behavior and I'm concerned. Yeah. All right. We got some other things going on. So does anybody have any ideas of how can we have that conversation, or when would it be appropriate to start having that kind of conversation with our teams? I'm concerned.
You know, Rebecca, that's where we started. You know, I went through my stuff, but then I realized, okay, how am I going to get this to my teams? We started with some simple lunch and learn. So we started speaking the same language, so that, and giving each other permission. You have permission when I'm off to ask if I'm okay. Do I need help? Can I do something for you? And it made a world of difference by just knowing that maybe, you know, one of our staff members gets really hangry. She's just in a bad mood because she needs a Kit Kat bar. I mean, that's it. That's all it is. But then there are times when something's really up and we really know our team member is suffering, and we've given each other permission to say, hey, are you okay? Do something. Can you step out? And it just started with really just bringing in some simple verbiage and having that conversation. Yeah, those are hard conversations, but as a leader, we have to be having those conversations. And the leader may not be the practice owner. The leader may not be the veterinarian, but there's somebody on your team that can lead that conversation and arrange for it to happen.
Or bring in a coach or a consultant or somebody else to help with that.
Exactly.
And open up those conversations.
Yeah, we brought in the coach and the people who know how to give those talks. I wasn't at the time when we started. That was not me. I brought in the people who knew how to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think if I can chime in a little bit here, my last role in practice was as like a L&D or education development coordinator. So I had to take all of those like growth and development courses to figure that out about me. And once I was able to identify those, it was kind of putting that into action with our teams. Like, okay, so this is how you self-identify. We'd have a bulletin board, or we'd send out like an email blast. And how, because there's so many of us that in this field, how are we auditory people? Some are, but mostly we have to get experientially involved. Otherwise it doesn't sink in. So how can we do that in a multimodal approach? You got to hit it from all angles. But having that one person that's that catalyst for change is really, you know, you need that megaphone that then enables other people, gives them like, oh, well, she did it or he did it, and it's okay. But you also have to have that conversation with your leadership teams, your management groups and stuff, because if they're not behind it, it doesn't go anywhere. So you have to have those multi-level conversations with the team, with management and beyond, to make sure everyone's on the same page and the dialogue flows so it doesn't get dammed up in any direction. And it's a process. You have to be patient with yourself and with each other.
And that's just absolutely right. It's a process. And about every 2 or 3 years, you need to repeat it. Seriously. When I go in and I speak with team members, because of the turnover and everything like that, and things that are going on, and personal, professional growth, it's okay to repeat it. It's okay to touch base on it again. Kimberly, thank you for joining. I saw you earlier too, but now I can actually like see you. Do you have any profound words of wisdom you'd like to throw in?
Yeah, sorry, we had to go get our dog from day camp. That was his like enrichment time. Can't really socialize him that well. We dropped him off for the day. And so I came back, and so there's just chaos going on in my house. That's why I had it all on mute and stuff. I mean, you know, that's why I started One Life. So One Life Connected basically creates a space that gives people permission to find their unique path to sustainability. And what it does is it doesn't tell them what to do. And I think that's one of the key things, not telling people what to do. Creating a space that allows them to find their own solution, but giving them ideas. So it gives them a framework. It gives them language, as Becky mentioned, right? So when you have language, it's easy to talk to. So I use balloons and sinkers, which many of you may know about my message, right? And so they can say, I'm filling a balloon right now, or I'm having a sinking moment. I have brown gauze moment. So I have a video that talks about the time where I lost my crap because I didn't have brown gauze in the hospital. And there's ways to engage with each other. Like they watch the video and they're like, oh my God, I did that. like I'm normal that I did that. And then you can engage, like, how do we want to support each other through these moments? You know, we can't like hit people, and we can't throw things, yes, but what can we do to be available? I use imagery cards a lot because we can answer questions through pictures because we think in images. We don't think in words, and talking about a picture is less vulnerable than talking about ourselves. You know, you put the pictures out to the team and you say, all right, everybody, I want you to pick a picture about how you feel about using this new record keeping system today. And people are picking, like, you know, an elephant all by itself in the middle of a field. Like, I feel like I'm the elephant in the room about to walk into this horrible day because it's going to be crazy, you know, and I don't know what to do, whatever. But it allows them to kind of open up the conversation. And what I've found from, you know, my many years in corporate practice and then also outside working with thousands of veterinarians and their teams is we can't tell them what to do. We can only provide them the resources and the space. But as leaders, we can make that space something that seems available, or we can make that space seem something that's inaccessible. And that's where we grow and we focus. And so we can't own it, though. We cannot own it. And some people are just not ready, or you don't have the capacity. And that's why I like what Becky does and bringing in professionals that are in that space. And even when I life coach with people, most of the people I life coach have therapists too. And I'll say, hey, we just unpackaged something that I think you need to bring to your therapist. Like, we'll keep talking about the career stuff and the life stuff that's associated with vet med, but that's something that you need to take to your therapist and talk about. And, you know, I tell people I've had a psychiatrist. I don't care what people say about it. You know, I mean, I work with somebody in that space, and, you know, being open about it is great, but I never want to tell people everybody has to have a therapist, or everybody has to do this, or everybody should drink more water, or everybody should exercise, or everybody should meditate, or everybody, you know, it's what you need. And so having the framework to work from, I think, is valuable.
Exactly. And this is, so Kimberly's one of our speakers through the symposium. Dr. Krull's a speaker, Melissa's a speaker, Mary's got some speaking and doing our games, Anne's a speaker, Jamie is supporting us in the moderator role. We've got people who are attendees in it, on our symposium. So the needle is shifting. Every time we open up something like this, even coming back to that idea that, yes, organized medicine can have a role in this too, but this moves the needle just as well. Just as being an approachable place, giving the resources, like Kimberly said, allowing for people to choose what works for them, what is palpable and open to them at the time, because who we are last year is not the same person we are going to be in a year from now. Right? That's just how we shift. That's how it's supposed to be. Awesome. All right. Is there, I'm going to go around the floor, meaning the round robin. Does anybody have any questions or comments or anything they want to throw out there before we call this an hour? I'm going to start with Ed. I'm going to start with you because you're so brightly blue and white. So tell me, do you have any questions or comments you'd like to throw in? Anything? Do I need to undo it?
No, I got it.
There you go.
I just didn't remember I was on mute. I can't say I really have any questions. I've had the honor of working with Becky Krull here for a couple of years now, and listening to her message. So I'm very interested over the next 3 days. I don't know if I'll be able to spend 4 hours every day for the next 3 days, but very interested in seeing some of the speakers and seeing what the variety of topics are. And honestly, seeing where it looks like this type or this particular symposia and this type of symposia can go in the future, because I do think it's a subject we need to talk more about. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for supporting it, obviously, and we look forward to having you. All right, Anne, I'm going to hop over to you. Any final comments or questions? Uh-oh. Uh-oh, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Uh-oh. How about you put it in the chat, because I can't hear you. Okay? Okay. So Jamie, I'll pull you up in your glorious pink and yellow. Comments or questions?
Yeah, I just think that this is something that has been a long time missing from the veterinary profession. And everyone that goes into the veterinary field is wired for compassion. And because of that, there's so much caring that we do for everything else. We sometimes forget to care for ourselves. And that's the reason why there's some of these issues that we're seeing, is because we forget that we have to put ourselves into a care program as well. And sometimes that does mean mental health programs, along with any nutrition programs or exercise programs. We have to make sure that we take care of the whole body.
Very good. Very well said. The whole body. All right, Alyssa, I'm going to throw you in there. You get to say next. Comments or questions?
I'm excited to be here as an attendee. I just recently transitioned from being an active veterinary nurse after 16 years to starting my own coaching and training company. Officially, we launched in October, but now I'm able to do it full time. So I was just so excited to get in touch with you, Rebecca, via LinkedIn, and see that this is a movement that I can be a part of, promote, and just really, it resonates so much. This is all of the values and the mission and vision that I founded with Empowering Veterinary Teams. This is exactly it, is approaching the team from that whole perspective, not just what can they give, but what can they get, and identifying the strengths and the amazingness of every individual to grow from within. So I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm hoping to be a bigger part of the movement, should or if you'd want me to be in the future.
Fabulous. We're so happy that you're here too.
Thanks.
Yay. All right, dear Dr. Cohn, your turn.
Oh, you're so sweet. This is terrific. This is something that has been a problem in veterinary medicine for many, many years. This isn't something that started last year or even 10 years ago. My best friend in veterinary school committed suicide 1 year after graduation, and that was a heck of a long time ago. And so it is way past time that we start dealing with this. AVMA started to really recognize it and deal with it only about 10 or 12 years ago. And they've come a long way, but they're not where they need to be yet. I will say that you don't have to go through advocacy on the AVMA website. That's not the way to go to figure this out. Go to resources and tools and go to well-being, and then you can find a whole lot of tools and advice and resources there, including how to set up your own workplace well-being programs. And then at the bottom of that, if I remember correctly, there is the list of the states with peer assistance and so forth. Now, having said that, unfortunately, most peer assistance programs are for veterinarians only, and that has to change. And we have to, on the state level, start advocating to have the entire veterinary team be able to be taken care of in that type of program. Again, I love where this is all going. You know, it's so past time, I can't even tell you, but you got to start someplace, and this is the way to go. We have to empower our teams. We have to show them we care. We have to have compassion not only for our pets, but for ourselves and for our team. And it's going to take training. It's going to take patience. It's going to take making mistakes and correcting those mistakes and learning. but this is the way to go. And I really appreciate what you're doing and applaud you.
Thank you. All of us are here showing up. That's the applauding. Yeah.
And that you was not you personally, that was you, everybody.
That's you, everybody. Exactly. Yeah. And Ted's absolutely right. I mean, you know, we've all seen things occurring, and this is just one movement. This is just one concept. You know, it's growing, and it is. We just want to keep the spark and flame it. Let's just do that. Keep it going. All right, Mary, you're next. Oh, and Mary's going to have lots of time to be speaking later today and through the weekend.
Saving my voice, my game show voice for later. But no, I really don't have too much to add. I love everything that everybody has said. It's been incredible. And I appreciate Dr. Cohen's comment about including everyone in the conversation. I think it was about 2018 when we finally got NAFTA on board with starting a well-being task force. And working on putting together some of the same tools or similar tools for our veterinary technicians out there to give them the tools they need and the resources they need to help themselves, as well as knowing when and how to find a therapist should they need it. And very honored to work with Rebecca through all of that, and then to graciously turn the reins over to her when I did something else. I still stay involved. But thank you guys for all being here tonight. It's been awesome. And hopefully we'll see you at Jeopardy later.
Yes, yes. So someone's leaving. Melissa's having to leave. Bye, Melissa. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye. So Kristen, we'll give you the floor. Comments or questions?
Yeah, I don't really have any questions, but like everyone else has said, I think it's been a good sort of conversation to hear some different talking points and different ideas and things, even just with this first kind of session to, you know, get some ideas to maybe bring back to the clinic and things like that. So yeah, I'm excited for the rest of the weekend.
Excellent, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to give tools, sweetheart, tools. Cindy, I see Cindy down here. I'm not sure. I've got a couple Cindys that have registered. So Cindy, can you talk to us? Maybe not.
Yes, I can talk to you.
Oh, there you go.
Can you see me?
No, but I can hear you.
I can't see me either.
Well, I know you're there somehow.
Oh. I don't know. Oh!
Look at you, got flamingos and everything.
Oh, look.
Yes. Oh, and balls, bouncing, glowing balls. I love it. Thank you. So I'm not sure how long you've been with us, but do you have any comments or questions? Oh, gracious. Yes. I'm heading that way in a minute.
No, I'm excited.
Okay.
I was with you for your team member certification.
Oh, down in Arizona.
Yes.
Sweet. Wonderful. Well, thank you for joining us and being a part of the symposium, and we'll have meet and greet next. But it'll be all on a different Zoom platform, and then Mary will have hers. So hang on. Kim, questions? Dr. Kimberly, down that way.
What Kimberly, not me, right?
Yeah, you.
Oh, sorry, because I already talked. So, no, I mean, I'm excited to hear everybody and see what's going to come out this weekend.
Yeah, super. All right. Any final words, Becky, and then I'll point everybody into what's next.
No, super excited. Glad we're all here. There's space for all of us. I love it.
Yes, there's space for all of us, most definitely. All right. So I'll just give you kind of a recap just of what's going on tonight. Now, everything has its own Zoom platform. So keep that in mind throughout the entire program. When you get out of one Zoom, you have to close that out and then move into another Zoom, okay, as an example. So later on this evening, we will be having a rather spontaneous meet and greet. I'm hoping to be out at my tiki hut, and people are encouraged to bring every color that they have and get a beverage of their choice and join for meet and greet. And I'll probably open that up even probably as close as 5 o'clock, meet and greet. So I'll open it up earlier. And then we'll close out of that Zoom and we'll go to Mary's Jeopardy. Then tomorrow, Friday morning, as someone already talked about, we have classes 4 hours in the morning. If people need to have CE, they need to attend the class. So that's how this is working. It's not like you can pop around in all of them and get CE from all of them. You need to be like this on Hollywood Squares in order for you to get your CE. Let's see. There is an FAQs page, and it will begin to populate as more and more questions come my way. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions. Mary, do you have anything you want to say about you know, your wonderful Jeopardy classes this evening, your game, or even your bingo later throughout the weekend?
No, I'm just going to put your thinking hats on and remember to answer in the form of a question.
Yes.
We're going to have 5 different categories. 5 or 6, I'm trying to remember. 6 different categories, 5 questions in each one. And there are going to be some interesting things in there. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. And the bingo, we're going to probably start tomorrow. Hopefully you will have gotten a link, or will be getting a link to print off your own bingo cards. And the only rule I have for bingo is that you have to have heard the word on the bingo card in your session. So it can't be reading it off of the notes. So not sure how we're going to enforce that, but we'll make it work somehow. We're all honest people. It will all be right. But no, we're going to have a good time with it, and bring an adult beverage of your choice with you when you come tonight, and we'll have some fun.
Sweet. Ed, thank you again. We'll see you later. We'll wrap everything up for everybody. I'm going to stop the recording, okay? Hold on.